have a lot of experience. They get to make those 52 movies a year. And then obviously some of those stylistic things will come across as well. The hardest thing when you take a writer from who's developed their talent on a soap is you want the skills of storytelling, characterization, how to do things on a shoestring, how to touch an audience. But you have to teach them how to end a story, because they don't know how to, because they've constantly taken up the baton, done their little piece, but handed it over. And that's you know, all my other shows are about closure within each episode, and that's the hardest thing. They don't know how to finish.
I don't think British soaps are inherently impoverished in their production values or their acting within the sort of narrow range that they exist in, but I think they are squeezing out other programs, more daring, original, innovative, one-off programs from the schedules. Whereas when ITV is doing, is it 4 Coronation Streets and 3 Emmerdales at least in prime time, that's a, you know, plus shows of the peak practice, soldier, heartbeat variety, you suddenly find that something like half of your 7 to 10:30 prime time is mortgaged, and the shows that you want to make are compared to those shows. If you make a very good drama and it gets 8 million and it costs £500,000 to £600,000 for that show, some accountant somewhere is going to say that show is costing 3 times the price of Corrie and is getting us half of the viewers. And if so, accountants would have wall-to-wall soap. And that obviously must be the enemy, if not of quality, then of diversity.
Theatre critics have traditionally used soap opera as a term of abuse, but facing falling audiences and the dominance of visual culture, theatre has been forced to learn from soap. One London theatre is even staging an open-ended serial.
No, Sal. No, don't even think about giving your baby away.
The idea was to make a piece of work which is live and also connects with what the people in the audience recognise, who watch soap on TV, who have concerns, who talk about their lives, their own ordinary everyday lives when they go to the pub, and all those things come together in this project.
Oh look! You're sitting with another dirty slap! Oh.
You see people cramming into the Raven pub on a Tuesday night in order to find out what's happened to the characters who they've got to know. You forget everything about theatre that you ever thought. But at the same time, it's absolutely going back to the essence of what theatre is.
What the bloody hell's going on here?
Any perception that soap opera and theatre are mutually exclusive is simply nonsense. There's nothing to say that a piece of live storytelling shouldn't be episodic. One of the great things in running a theatre is you want people to come back. You don't want people just to come and see one thing and say, oh, well, that's the end of that, then I wonder what I'll do next. You want to have a hook for people to come back and to repeat the experience and to find out what happens next.
I'm going to be a grandma!
When television started, people predicted the end of soap opera, saying it was a radio form. But as we've seen, these dramas flourished with pictures. The Who Shot JR storyline in Dallas is, in terms of global audience, probably the most successful piece of fiction of the century. And now, as television is challenged by new media, soap has moved into cyberspace. And with these global web soaps, the genre comes full circle. A form originally created to sell soap powder to housewives now promotes detergent to students. Students huddling around a soap opera on TV has always been a key part of higher education, but now undergraduates have their own soap.
Students can use the soap opera that we have by participating in creating the storylines themselves. They can email storylines to us, which will evolve with them, with the scriptwriter, and also they can use their profiles to become characters within the soap themselves. They become stars for 15 minutes. It was actually because some of our users wanted to become soap stars themselves that we took on the idea of making their profiles into characters. Students are like any other sector of society, they all love soaps, everybody loves storytelling and being told stories, and here's a way of letting them tell them themselves. The soap is set in a house, so there's accommodation stories, also issues about money or lack of it, which is a current theme for students. Other storylines we've had have been involved around TV licensing, meningitis, and of course sex. We thought it was important to discuss all kinds of aspects of health for students. We wanted to tackle the subject of eating disorders, so one of our characters has been getting progressively thinner throughout the year, and here we have him as a skeleton whilst juxtaposed in the kitchen while his flatmate's cooking. I think that students tend to like the DIY culture of soap, so the tackier they are in some ways the better, and the web is the perfect medium for them to interact and do it themselves.
Audiences for most television soaps are now down. A majority of programmes, drama, news, documentary, are in some way the children of soap opera. But will the most potent TV form of the 20th century survive?
In some ways the future seems a little bleak. I see no end to the current obsession with youth-oriented drama, which is really crippling serial drama in a lot of the areas that I work. It's becoming more and more narrow. Broadcasters are exercising more and more control over the programs that they buy, and that means often they're insisting on cliche, they're insisting on caricature, because they're insisting on what they've seen before and what they know to work. They don't want to take any risks at all. They don't want to offend anyone.
Since we're all in this business slaves to the almighty youth demographic, a false god, in my opinion, that's going to be a continuing trend, I'm afraid.
You know, our soaps are still scatterguns, you know what I mean? They're still dealing with very broad issues, trying to appeal to as many people as often as possible. But I think the next development in soaps will be niche soaps.
The thing I always tried to do at Channel 4, and I couldn't get anyone to do it, I wanted to do a late night soap, sort of 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night, so you could deal with all kinds of issues that you can't in family viewing time, that could have been slightly satirical.